Thank you very much, Artis. Thanks to all who came here to listen about this topic, which is probably the most important topic today and generally. That's about our survival. Promoting health and longevity ecosystem is basically about promoting our health and longevity, prevention of aging-related diseases. What are we talking about? We understand that aging is the main risk factor or the main underlying cause of all age-related diseases, basically all chronic diseases. So if we are ever serious about prevention, preventive medicine, prevention of chronic diseases, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, we want to intervene into the thing that causes most disability, that brings all those diseases, and that is the aging process. That is the main idea of geroscience, the field that aims to intervene into aging process to prevent multiple diseases. That's what we want to promote. That is the conceptual basis of longevity biotech industry. This approach is going to be ever more relevant as the population aging, which is actually becoming a global massive challenge for the entire world, including Baltic countries, and also the workforce, the professional workforce that will work in this area will increase together with the problems, so better learn about this field. And during COVID times, it should have become clear to everybody that we need to address the aging challenge. We need to address the underlying health of all the people. We know that all the people were the most vulnerable with the highest mortality, highest severity of disease. So the logical step would be to try to address their underlying health, improve their resilience, improve their immunity. Unfortunately, the world went a different way. They preferred to isolate all the people. But still, this approach is valid. We advocated a lot for it, organized conferences, and went to the government, published position papers, research papers. Still, hopefully, COVID is subsiding, or have subsided already. But the approach remains valid for other diseases because aging is not just the main risk for COVID, also for Alzheimer's and influenza, and basically everything that people suffer from. I would argue that because we didn't address aging strongly enough during the COVID times, we also didn't cope well enough with COVID. We see that the global life expectancy declined almost 2 years. You don't hear about this often, but yes, it happened. The first major decline in life expectancy for the past 70 years since the Second World War. And that was because all the population was vulnerable, couldn't cope. That was the main source of mortality and decline in life expectancy. So now this should be a call for action for us to really get back on the program and try to at least increase life expectancy to the level of 2019. And then resume the progress. We should also always distinguish and always consider both general life expectancy and healthy life expectancy. Healthy life expectancy is the time we live without disability, without chronic disease. They should all increase, both increase, and also the gap between them should decrease as much as possible. Basically, that means that people will live healthy as long as possible. Hopefully, even to the day they depart as late as possible, like centenarians do. And we see that if you look at the demographic of the Baltic countries, actually of Latvia, we see that the general life expectancy and the healthy life expectancy are relatively low compared to the European level, 76 years. The general life expectancy, 66, the healthy life expectancy. And this means actually that the demographic problem, that the aging problem is more severe here. It means that all the people are more vulnerable, that they die more. So once again, for you, it's a call for action to actually invest more in the aging problem. So that was on the negative side. What will happen if we don't address aging challenge sufficiently, if we don't invest into improving health of all the people? But on the positive side, if we are successful, if we are able to prevent age-related diseases, the economic and social benefits could be immense. There was a calculation that just 1 year of increasing healthy life expectancy would save trillions of dollars for a large country like the United States, simply by saving costs for healthcare, for welfare, for medical bills, and also just to improve the productivity of all the people. And for a small country like our Israel and Latvia, I believe the benefits can be less, but also very substantial. I believe it would need to be calculated, but I would estimate around at least $1 billion a year savings for the economy, and also a general boost to the economy. We're not dreaming, we're not creating science fiction stories. There's already many proofs of feasibility that yes, it is possible to intervene into aging, to prevent multiple age-related diseases, to extend healthy life. Here are some of the popular classifications of the major aging process, like pillars of aging of the NIH, of the Neuroscience Interest Group of the NIH, hallmarks of aging, the most cited paper in biology of aging, already about, I believe, 12,000 citations. The strategies for engineered negligible senescence, they all have the same idea that by intervention to major aging process, we'll be able to prevent multiple diseases. And there are many proofs of feasibility for each such aging process. There are certain interventions that were shown to work on animal models, and also some emerging clinical trials. So it is our goal, not just as longevity scientists, but also as longevity activist advocates, is to help move this research from the basic laboratory level to the clinic as fast as possible, with the highest safety and efficacy as possible for all of our sakes. And of course, you cannot treat something that you cannot diagnose. So basically, these are the two arms of geroscience, of longevity industry. First of all, the treatment, the intervention, but also biomarkers of aging, metrics of aging that are needed not just to evaluate aging health trajectory, but also to test the efficacy of geroprotective or anti-aging treatments, because we simply cannot treat something that we cannot measure, cannot diagnose. So for that purpose, we need to develop massive panels of biomarkers of aging. So these are the main branches of geroscience, of longevity biotech industry. How do we promote it? How do we promote it? Very simply. The answer is we simply draw attention to the need. We draw attention to the problem. Let's be honest, many people simply prefer not to think about aging, and that's why they don't deal with it, they don't invest in it, they simply don't want to have anything to do with aging, because I don't know for what kind of psychological reasons, but we need to take our head out of the sand and look the problem in the face and see that aging is actually a very important issue and that needs to be addressed. And in order to address aging medically, we need to recognize aging as some kind of a medical condition, something that can be treated. We don't want to get into all kinds of semantic disputes that will get people angry. Is it a disease? Is it a syndrome? Right now, we have a clear definition of aging in the International Classification of Diseases, in the ICD-11 system of the WHO, that defines aging first of all, as a general set of symptoms, a syndrome, the so-called aging-related decline in intrinsic capacity, and also as a risk factor or underlying cause, the so-called aging-related code, which basically shows that aging is important for development of all diseases. And I'm very happy and proud to say that also organizations that I represent, the International Longevity Alliance, where I sit on the board, and the Biogerontology Research Foundation, where I sit on the board, were quite instrumental in introducing those definitions into the ICD-11 through the consultation that they had. So now finally, beginning from last year, aging is recognized as a medical condition by the ICD, by the WHO, so we can just start addressing it medically. But once again, it's just the first step. Now we'll need to develop evaluation criteria, actual treatments, actual tests, but it's a great first step in terms of policy. But the idea is simply to educate people. Even at the highest level of health management, at the highest level of health organization, people simply don't realize the importance of the aging issue. Here's the one example from 2017. The WHO developed a working program until 2023, actually, until today, and they didn't include aging. Aging was simply not an issue by their criteria. And we raised the public outcry. Some of the organizations that also represent ILA, International Society on Aging and Disease, hundreds of people, hundreds of organizations raised the voice and demanded this issue is included, and it was included. You can see the head of the Aging and Development Division said, yes, the WHO listened, it's included, there's some plan to improve the aging health. So that's just an example that you simply need to go to the decision makers and explain that we need to address aging. Otherwise, they put it out of their mind. We start the promotion from our country, from our local circumstances, from the national circumstances. We promote it in Israel. We do work to make Israel one of the leading countries in this field of longevity biotech, preventive medicine for older people. It's our agenda, also of our association, VETEC, the Movement for Longevity and Quality of Life, which is kind of an umbrella organization for the longevity field in Israel. That's our goal, but we don't want it just for us. If we succeed, we can also help others and also cooperate with others. We'll be in a stronger position. Recently, we make an effort to combine all the forces, to join all the forces, to map the actors in the field, decision makers, policy makers, clinics, research labs, companies. So just a couple of days ago, we actually issued a report, The Longevity Industry in Israel, where we tried to map the field in cooperation with our partners, like Aging Analytics Agency and Biogerontology Research Foundation. So once again, it's another method to draw attention to the field, to help create synergies in the field. And also in terms of policy, we actually go to the government, we go to Knesset and to try to explain that it's important. I'm very proud to say that thanks to our association's effort, the issue of enhancing research, development, and education for health and longevity and prevention of age-related diseases was included into the Israel National Master Plan on Aging that was published in 2019. And as a result, we encouraged some calls for proposals on healthy aging specifically. Altogether, I believe we helped to encourage over $20 million in calls for proposals to support aging research, to support aging science. But it's not just in Israel. We also encouraged international collaboration. For example, the BioRx Aging Program, the Britain-Israel Research and Academic Exchange on Aging, where I had the honor to write this call for proposal with a specific focus on neuroscience principles, on preventive medicine, on measuring aging, on testing the effects of treatments on multiple age-related diseases. About 250 labs participated, submitted proposals from UK and Israel. About 15 labs got funding, but that's just an example how it can be promoted through calls for proposals, through policies. And I emphasize this example because in the same way as we created collaboration between UK and Israel, in the same way we can establish collaboration between Israel and Latvia, or between the Baltic countries, or between Baltic countries and any other country in the world, because this is an issue that is common to the entire world. There are several frameworks to develop cooperation with Israel, specifically through Ministry of Science, through Ministry of Health. If there's interest, we can actually discuss, maybe try to bring decision makers to the table. And just a few examples, concrete examples, what kind of projects can be developed in the neuroscience field and the longevity biotech field. First of all, when we speak about aging, we cannot forget about aging technology. Geronto technology, so-called assistive technologies for older people, a very important field. Also longevity fintech, also a very important field. Our association cooperates in those topics, discusses them with others, but it's not our main focus. Our main focus is neuroscience, preventive medicine for older people, intervention into the aging process. In this regard, we can work on analyzing data on aging. For example, this is our project of our VETEC association that introduced the topic of quantified longevity into the European Innovation Partnership on Active and Healthy Aging. We, together with my colleague David Bloch, we use certain metrics based on information tier, like normalized mutual information. It has certain advantages. For example, analyzing nonlinear relations, synergistic relations. I'll not go into that, but that's just one voice in a massive discussion that we want to stimulate. How do we measure aging, and how do we measure success in the treatment of aging? So that's the kind of program that we need to use data. So as much data data we can lay our hands on, perhaps create a registry or any kind of data that we analyze will help to establish those criteria. And this is not just a single bioinformatic project. It's really a subject of massive discussion, massive consultation. We really need to develop some global standards, some good practices for the measurement of aging. What do we measure? How do we measure the success of treatment? For all that, we need to involve regulators, policymakers. That's going to be a huge area of discussion for years to come, but at least right now we can stimulate this discussion in meetings like this. And once again, here we have practical people who want to see concrete examples. Here are a few concrete examples from Israel of geoscience related projects. These are not my projects or association. These are mostly from the scientific advisory board member of VETIC Association. But that's an example of a promising direction as geoscience, such as senolytic treatments, epigenetic rejuvenation, improving DNA repair and metabolism by sirtuin activation, regeneration of cardiovascular system, rejuvenation of immune system. All these are promising directions. They're still mostly in the laboratory stage. It is once again our goal, not just as scientists, but also as advocates, as activists, to move the studies as fast as possible and as safe as possible to the clinic, to the people. And that means commercialization. Basic research, fundamental research is very important, but at some stage we need to move to the clinic, and that means we need to establish companies. All these projects basically have some commercial branches from the university or individually. So Israeli scientists are very translation-minded, very commercially minded. That's why they call us a startup nation. We always think about the startup that will come out of this. So that's the kind of projects that can be developed also in Latvia. Also, Latvia has excellent scientific and technological potential, and the market for it will only grow. Right now, it is estimated that the longevity field already circulates about $6 or $7 billion in investments in the recent years in 2022, and it will only grow. The market size can reach trillions and tens of trillions because obviously that's relevant for everybody. If we are lucky, everybody is aging, so these treatments can be applicable to everybody. And one important point when I speak about promotion of the longevity field, of longevity biotech, we do not just mean specific projects. In venues like this, people want to see the KPIs. What's the project? What's the outcome? Ecosystem in nature doesn't have any KPIs. Ecosystem in nature is just a living, breathing environment where certain things can survive, and that's what we also want to create for the longevity field. We want to instill this desire for health and longevity in the population. It's not often present. Sometimes it's suppressed. We need people to want it, and we need to increase education on health and longevity on all levels, from the professional, from the academic level to the popular level. Even in academia, the courses on aging are very rare in almost any curriculum in any university, even in biomedical faculties. We need to put it there, and also to educate, as I say, educate the consumer. I would say educate citizen scientists to be interested in aging, even at the lay level, because from a massive lay interest, we'll also have increased interest in the professional community. There will simply be more stimulus. And one of the very effective ways to stimulate this discourse, to stimulate this community building, is by associations, by creating public bodies that will promote those topics, also by organizing conferences, and that is also what we want to promote here in Baltic countries, in Latvia. I'm happy to announce that you're the first to hear about it. We will soon register an association called Longevity Alliance Baltic that will It will be a non-profit to promote this agenda in the Baltic countries, also internationally. And I say we because this will be done in cooperation with all the organizations that I'm happy to represent, with International Longevity Alliance, International Society on Aging and Disease. So it will not be alone for the Baltic countries. It will be cooperation already. So if there's interest to help promote this association, to help us create gatherings, publications, projects, happy to discuss. Also, most of our board is here, Gleb and Ujis and others. So we already have a team, and this can grow not just for Latvia, but also for Estonia and Lithuania and broader. Because once again, the cooperation is key. This is a topic that no country can deal with alone. This is from the beginning a global issue that everybody needs to get on board, and this issue can be scaled up to any dimensions. Obviously, the issue is so important that we can invest in it as much as possible, but we need to start somewhere. And I'm happy and grateful for the opportunity given to me to present to this, to raise some of your interest and ask for your collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Long live Mr. Stambler, his team, and longevity.